Okay, welcome to the third and final tutorial in this series on creating arrays and physics in Blender 2.5.7. And what we're going to do in this third part is we're just going to examine some of the rendering capabilities, set up a render, some lights, and we'll start a render just so you see how to perform these actions. Okay, so the first thing we do is we can render a scene at any time just by clicking the F12 button, all right? And so I'll go ahead and do that. But you see we don't get much, and that's because this is rendering from the camera's viewpoint. So let's hit F11, and then click in the window, and then we want to move the camera to a better view. So I'm going to hit Control-Alt-Q, that way I can see all four views. And I'm going to move the camera, but first I have to make sure and turn on the keyframe insertion. Otherwise the camera will automatically jump back to its original position because I've already got a keyframe set for this. So, okay, so I'm going to back it up and I'm going to move it here. Okay, now we're getting somewhere you can see that the object's starting to be viewable. And how about here? Maybe back a little further so I'll get more of the exploding cubes in the scene. And up a bit. And okay, this looks like a pretty good starting point. How about right about there? Okay. So now technically, if I hit F12, let's turn off the keyframe insertion. If I hit F12, I should be rendering this viewport. Okay, very good. Now you can see from this render that our lighting is not so great. And we're going to need to add some lights. So let's go F11. Let's add a couple lights. I'll start out, I'll position the cursor here so that the light gets added at this point. And I'll add a lamp, and we'll just make it a point lamp. That's fine. And then let's add another one over here. Position the 3D cursor and add another lamp. We might not need this back lamp, but it probably can't hurt. Okay. So Control-Alt-Q, so we can go back to perspective mode. And you see that the lights got added down below the scene, so we just need to move them up. Let's move it up here, and we'll move this. We'll select this one, right-click, move this one up. So this ought to be reasonable. And now we can hit F12 again, and we can see what's happened. So, okay, so now we have some nice, a little bit better illumination. There's not much top illumination, so maybe I should add a top camera or a top light as well. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll add another light on top, lamp, point, and it gets added at the cursor. Let's move it so that it's a little further away and up on top of the object. Is that really on top? No. Okay, move it here. Okay, that's probably good enough. How about up a little bit further, over, like right about there. Okay, so let's hit F12 again, and we'll see, okay, now we have illumination all around the object. Pretty decent. It's a little dim. It's not perfect. I'd do better if I was really, trying to render something super nice. But this will be good enough for now. Okay, so we've set up the viewport. We know what we're going to do, and now we're going to render some frames. And I'm just going to move my cursor through the animation. And let's see, I better hit F11 first so that I can see where I am. And so this is well after, okay, here's where the block has already impacted. And just to get an idea of what the render is going to look like, I'm going to start out just rendering like 10 frames from this position of the cursor. So I'll move the start position to where the cursor is. That looks reasonably good. And the end position. So I'm starting at 75. Let's end at 85. So we're going to render 10 frames. Okay, now that we've set up our region that we're going to render, we have to go to the rendering control panel and select several options. So that we come over here and click on the camera. Click on the camera. Okay, there we go. And this is our rendered control panel. And we need to set some basic options. This is the size of the render. This is probably way too big. Let's render this. I'm going to render this at a resolution that's reasonable for YouTube. How about I think it's 1280. No, I can't remember. Let's just get our video options here. No, not there. Region. Right, okay, 1280 by 720 is the YouTube standard. So 1280. Okay, so we're changing this to 1280 by 720. And for now, this is a test render, so I'm going to leave it at 50%. Okay, and that makes it go much faster. Here's the start frame, here's the end frame, one step. 24 frames per second, let's change that to 20. 24 frames per second is standard, but we'll change it to 20 frames per second. 20. All right. Now, there's anti-aliasing selected. Maybe that's, we don't really need 8. It'll be a lot faster if we use 5, I think. And just to see what 5 looks like, let's perform another render. Okay, so that's what the scene's going to look like. It looks fine. It looks anti-aliased. Aliasing means these jaggy edges. If I increase the anti-aliasing, the jaggy edges go away. F12, but let's see how much nicer that looks. But it does take a lot more time. All right, let's select 8. 8, you can see a bit of jaggedness, but it's not too bad. Okay, and this is what we're going to render, all the ray tracing, all our shading, everything. We'll just do everything. This is where it outputs, and I'm going to change this. I don't want it to output to C temp. I want it to output to, in my case, I want to output to, let's go P. I have a screen cams directory where my screen cams are being rendered to, so maybe I'll just use that directory. And I'll create a new folder called Blender Renders. Okay, and that's where the renders will go from now on. Okay, accept. And now we're ready to render. So let's go ahead and hit animation. Oh, did I do it? Oh, I almost forgot. We can render to individual image files, which is nice if you want to manipulate them later. But for now, what we want to do is render to a codec, render to a movie. And I'll use H.264 because that's a very high quality movie rendering codec. If you don't have it, you can always download it. I have several codecs installed on my computer. I have the OGG Theora codec is also excellent. Xvid is also really good. Sometimes a little buggy. I almost always use Theora or H.264. Okay. So I'm going to hit the render button, and we're going to render 10 frames. And as you can see, it's rendering 84, and we're done. Okay, so now if I go to that directory, screen cams, Blender renders, I have a movie. I suppose I'll go ahead and play it. It's going to play in my default player, which is VLC player. And it plays so fast that you can barely even see it. Play, play, play. How about play pause? I can't pause it fast enough. All right. Well, in any case, that's something I didn't think of. How about loop? Okay, so now I have a loop at least. And you can see the render. It's a little dark. But it worked. we got a decent render. And you can, if we were able to look at it more close up, you would see that there's some artifact, and the artifact is due to the compression. So of the video codec, and also it's only 50% this size. So in any case, that is a render. I think that covers almost everything for our tutorial. And one couple things I would mention here is that this is probably a bit too dark. I would probably want to increase the lighting energy a little bit. It's very easy to do that. For instance, I could select this light and its properties and increase its brightness some, maybe to 2. And then when I hit F12, I'll get a render. Now it's a little brighter. So, you can adjust your lighting in order to get something sufficient. That's it for this tutorial, and I hope you enjoyed these little tutorials and are about to have some really exciting fun with Blender. All right.